Hello, this is Will Dean in the Moose Forest cabin. It's good to be back with you. I'm going to talk today a little bit about endurance. So the thing with writing is that daydreaming is an integral part of it. You need to be able to fundamentally come up with fresh ideas. And that's a weird part of your brain that you utilize to do that. It's not like the front part of your brain. I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a neurologist, but bear with me. It's not like the active part of your brain. It's the kind of passive, weird, subconscious part of your brain. It's the same kind of part of your brain. It's the same kind of part of your brain. When you're driving, and you end up driving for 4 hours and you drive for a 1 hour stretch and you don't even realize that you've been driving. You don't even realize you've been noticing red lights and green lights, but you have been. And I guess what I'm trying to get to is you need to protect your daydreaming parts of your day, those snippets of time. If you're always filling those empty bits of time with stuff to do, you miss out on that idea generation potential. So as an example, if I'm in my truck driving through the woods and I'm listening to a podcast, which I often am, or I'm listening to an audiobook, which I often am, that's halfway for me in terms of daydreaming time, because often I'll be listening and I'll also be thinking in the back part of my brain. Again, not a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist. And I can be listening to something quite passively and come up with ideas and stop in my truck and write notes about an idea or about a snippet of dialogue, something like that. If I'm like taking a bath, sometimes I'll stick on Radio 4 in the background, but importantly, sometimes I need to not do that so I can just think, right? I can think through my next story, or I can think through a news story, or I can let my mind wander. And it's kind of a discipline to do that these days because we're bombarded by YouTube, we're bombarded by podcasts, audiobooks. There's a whole world out there that monetizes your free time, these little snippets, whereas an artist or a writer, you need to be daydreaming and you need to be coming up with ideas. Very smart people will monetize that time and will capture it from you, and you need to protect it. You know, when you're falling asleep, that's generally when I have my ideas, is when I'm falling asleep. And if I'm reading and then I go to sleep, I'll have loads of ideas. But if I'm like watching videos or YouTube or catching up with the news and then I go to sleep, it messes with my idea production factory. And that's not good. That's not good. So oftentimes you need to protect those snippets of daydreaming time. Let me give you an example. I have a little tractor and I use it to cut the field out there. And in order to do that, it takes me 3 or 4 hours. And I usually listen to audiobooks. And I love listening to audiobooks because I can crack through kind of half a book when I'm doing that. But nowadays, oftentimes, the first hour, I won't be listening to an audiobook. I'll have headphones on, like noise cancelling headphones, or I'll just be listening to the nature all around me. I'll be listening to the birds and I'll be listening to the big mammals rustling around in the undergrowth. And I love that. And that is when I will sometimes have an idea. If I'm exhausted, I might not. I'll stick the audiobooks on straight away. But protecting those little pieces of time, if you're going for a swim, if you're on the beach, if you're on vacation, if you are chopping wood, which I have to do a lot, or if you're going for a walk, resist the temptation to fill that empty time with someone else's ideas, someone else talking to you, and instead seize it for yourself. Protect it, be selfish about it. And it takes some active energy on your part or on my part to do that. Sometimes it's a lot easier just to listen to something else that's entertaining or interesting or educational. But it's great to protect some of those moments. Carve out some time, half an hour here, half an hour there, and just let your mind wander. Oftentimes before I write a first draft, I'll actively think through the story and the key scenes, and I'll start thinking about the main character. And it all helps. It's all work. It's all part of the work. Hope that's helpful.